Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, wherever or whenever you so happen to be watching this program right now. This is a new thing we're trying out on this social media page entitled Inside the District. My name is Grant Henry. I'm the campaign manager for Andy Ogles, running for 5th District U.S. Congress. And the idea that we're trying to do here is give some insight as to what isn't happening inside of this district, letting leaders inside the district, state legislators and the like, tell their story from that first-person perspective so we can have an in-depth understanding as to what's happening here. And kicking it off for our inaugural address here is Representative Scott Cepicky. We thank you so much for joining us on this program today, sir. And let me just start by asking, for those in the audience that may not know you, although I'm sure everybody watching this probably does, for those that may not know you, introduce yourself, tell us which district you serve, and if you could, tell us why you originally ran for this office.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you allowing me to come on and talk to you and the congressman and I'm going to tell him he's going to get the job. And so we're looking forward to working with him. My name is Scott Cepicky. I'm the state representative from District 64, which used to include almost all of Murray County. And now it has been divided from north to south. And I have the eastern side of Murray County, roughly 73,990 something constituents. Geographically, I don't have the largest landmass, but population-wise, I have the largest population of any representative district in the whole state.
And I think you almost just touched on it a second ago there, where you mentioned down to the exact number, the number of constituents that you have. Was that part of the reason why you wanted to run, just concern for the district itself?
Well, you're right. I mean, I started back on the county commission in 2010, and it was one of those things where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so a friend of mine put me up to the challenge to run for county commission. Then you fast forward now, Sheila Butt was a representative who retired from the General Assembly, and she asked me to run for her spot up here and replace her up here in the General Assembly. I have a good relationship with you and your office over there. One of the most conservative members of the General Assembly. There aren't too many people to the right of me, but I think Tennessee as a whole is a reflection of those values we have, of those conservative values, not only fiscally, but also socially. And I believe over the last 4 years, and hopefully get re-election for another 2, that I will continue to hold the line on those conservative values in Tennessee, especially in Murray County. Those conservative values are very prominent.
I think some people forget how large this state actually is, the sheer surface area that it takes up until you drive from the north point of the 5th District down to the south point, all the way from east across west to the state. It is a massive state. I asked that to lead into this question. In your district in particular, Representative, what do you believe are the top issues, or one of the top issue that is facing your constituents right now?
Well, it's 100%. It's growth, Grant. We are the fastest growing county in the state of Tennessee and 14th fastest growing in the entire United States. People are flocking to Tennessee, as we all know it here, especially in Middle Tennessee, because of who we are, because of being Tennesseans, because of being having no state income tax and being the most cost-effective place to live, work, and raise a family, and because of our values. And I think people around the country are fed up with where they are, and they're coming to a place where values, conservative values, are of prominence, and fiscal responsibility in government is very prominent. We will not spend any more money than we take in the General Assembly. That is by statute. And so we have made sure that we cannot overspend and get ourselves into the predicament that Mr. Ogles is getting ready to present himself to in Washington, with a government that just spends money because, 1, they can, and 2, they just print more of it. And I think if we could get to the point where our congressmen and senators in Washington would run Washington like we do Tennessee, I don't think we'd see the trillions of dollars of deficits that we see up in Washington. You would see the surpluses that we have in Tennessee start to happen up in Washington. So the growth's going to be a major concern. And then how are we going to meet the infrastructure needs with water? Water is going to become a big issue here in Middle Tennessee.
And I think you said it there. If the federal government could take a little bit of the recipe that Tennessee has done so well, I think inherent in that is shrinking the size and scope of what the federal government does. It didn't used to be this way. It didn't used to be this bloated monstrosity that just never seemed to stop growing. But nevertheless, we're here. Getting back to what you said a second ago, Representative, growth can be a good thing, can be an incredibly positive thing, economically and otherwise, but can also be a little bit of a scary thing, if I'm being honest, right? And some people moving in, maybe different values set. Are anybody in your district, are they concerned about this massive growth at all? Where are they standing on that?
Well, there's a lot of concern with, first of all, with meeting the need for the young families that are coming here with children and building schools. Murray County, the district, is facing probably about $500 million of new schools over the next 10 years. And where's that money going to come from? We are working to try to create impact fees on new construction to help pay for new construction. We are working with that and getting those possibilities in the General Assembly. And then just the day-to-day of getting people, like Tennessee's becoming the melting pot that the United States used to be when it was first created. Right. Of all these different nationalities, all these different states, and all the different ideas and ideals that people have from all these different states, we have to make sure that we maintain the identity of what it means to be a Tennessean. And we're seeing that right now in Davidson County with all the people moving here, especially the young people. They're in flux right now. They're trying to figure out what their identity is going to be. And in Murray County, we're starting to go through those pains as we're seeing unprecedented growth, like I spoke about earlier, of all this pressure coming into the district on all these different ideas from California, from New York, from the upper Midwest, that you have to leave those ideals behind you and come be a Tennessean. And as someone who's been here, I've moved here from another place. It takes time to learn what it means to be a Tennessean, and it's a great honor to be one.
It absolutely is. And people want to see that. They want to see that you have a vested interest in your community. And as a true statesman should, pour back into that community. The model, based on my opinion, a Judeo-Christian ethic of serving your constituents, right? That's what it is. It is an aspect of service. And before we jump into this overlap of how the state is going to play with the federal government, of how this federal congressional seat can help or in any way communicate better with these state seats, give me your opinion on what do you think is going to be the biggest issue statewide in the Tennessee General Assembly next year?
Well, I think it's going to be the 10th Amendment and control. We've seen the Biden administration repeatedly interfere in the Tennessee's business. And Grant, let's get one thing straight. The prize jewel of the left is Tennessee. Yes. They want us bad. And the reason why they want us bad is because we are a constant reminder of everything that they will never be. I think one of the issues that we voted on, and sometimes you don't see the significance of it, but my first session up here 4 years ago, we voted on the TennCare shared savings account. And what that was is we convinced Medicare, Medicaid to block the money down to us and let Tennessee administer TennCare without federal interference and do it efficiently like we have. So we've not only done it ourselves, we've increased the number of people that have qualified for TennCare and are on the rolls. We've increased the quality of care because we've done this so efficiently and fiscally responsibly. But the deal was we would send back half of the money that we save to the federal government, and we could keep the other half here in Tennessee to help expand more services and provide better medical services to those on TennCare. The number's $500 million, Grant. We're going to give $250 million back to the federal government. How about that? We're going to give them money back because we're doing our job. And that could become a model. We know the Biden administration just went after education with Title IX, trying to force our K through 12 systems to allow boys to use girls' bathrooms and girls' locker rooms. And we fought that in the courts, and we want to stay on that. But that is what the federal government is trying to do in federal overreach, is to dictate down to every state how you're going to do things. And let me tell you something, just send us the money, let us do it. And if we do it very well, people will flock to those states and make them more prosperous. And if you do it very poorly, like some of our northern states up in Illinois and places like that, that people will flock away from those, and whoever does it the best will benefit the most.
And what you're saying is music to my ears. The 10th Amendment, that is. It's music to my ears. It's music to Andy Ogles' ears. I'm sure everyone is realizing this now. If you don't know, 10th Amendment basically says the powers that we don't give to the federal government, that's left to the states. And in some sense, that was the original design of federalism of this country, that the states ceded off a small portion of their power so that the federal government could have what's called specifically enumerated powers. You, big national government, you do the very small things and only those things that we're telling you can do. Everything else, let the states do. Let Tennessee be Tennessee. That is one of the primary tenets of why Andy Ogles is running for U.S. Congress. We believe in that wholeheartedly, and we believe, just like you, Representative, that is one of the primary core solutions to getting this equation and the balance reset properly. And on the way out here, let me ask you, is there a way, would you like to see any greater communication between your U.S. congressional offices and where you are? Because people may not realize this 5th congressional district, it used to be just to Nashville. Now it extends all the way throughout these southern 3 counties of Lewis, Marshall, and Murray. And how would you like to see the communication happen between this U.S. congressional office and where you guys are in the state here?
Well, I think that's the magic equation you got to have is you have to stop referring to state and federal because we all represent the same people. And I think if Congressman Ogles could come to my district with Senator Hensley and hopefully Representative Capley and have a town hall that is not only federal, but also state issues, and let people see how the federal and state is working together for their betterment, I think people would start to say, hey, I see how my team is working for me. And I tell people this all the time, and you've been in my office where I say this to people all the time. I even say it to you. I work for you. I'm not some person up on a pedestal that's unapproachable. I work for you, my constituents. And my constituents should have unfettered access to me and unfettered access to the congressman, and for that matter, unfettered access to the senators, so that we can show our constituents how state and federal are working together to not only make Tennessee a better place, but to make their individual districts even better.
Very well said, Representative. On the way out here, any last words you want to get in? Anything else we haven't covered you'd like to touch on?
No, I just think as we continue to have these, I think we need to expand more, bring in more people to our party. I think people are getting fed up with the whole woke left of the Democrat Party, and I think we can win more hearts and minds if people just focus on our fiscal conservatism and our fiscal social responsibilities. And I think Tennessee will be a leader in this country like it's been set up to be.
Very well said. On behalf of Andy Ogles and Representative Cepicky, my name is Grant Henry. Thank you all so much for joining us today on this very first episode of Inside the District. Stick around next week for a new guest, and thank you all so much for joining us.
Have a great day, everybody.